Okay, guess I've got some recording to do. So I'm going to talk about Mixtape in two distinct parts. First, a spoiler-free review, with as little shown as possible, and then a very spoilery story breakdown and kind of analysis of Stacey, the main character. And Mixtape is a very short game. It's only 3 to 4 hours long, so I am going to really hold back on what I show you to save you the experience. Other than perhaps in the spoilery commentary, which again will be very clearly timestamped. So as I just showed, Mixtape is currently sitting at a 93 on OpenCritic, making it the highest rated game of 2026 so far. So what on earth is it? Think of games like What Remains of Edith Finch, Gone Home, Firewatch, Everybody's Gone to Rapture, games with an emphasis on narrative where at least some of the narrative is told through gameplay. Where Mixtape falls on that continuum, we'll talk about later. Mixtape in particular has a lot of sort of mini games and interactive moments, but not really that many fail states, if any. But there is a lot of doing stuff while you listen to lots of very complimentary and pretty wicked 80s and 90s music. And before we really get into any of this, I will just say that if you have any interest in this game whatsoever, just play it. Don't bother watching this video. Come back to it afterwards if you want. It's short, it's cheap, it's on Game Pass Ultimate at the moment. You really don't have much to lose. So with all that said, is it as good as the reviews make out?
Oh shit, we're going.
So the long and short of it is, I loved Mixtape. It is such a well-written, funny and charming game. It's punchy, it's well-paced, and it's just so fucking cool. Look at this, man. The art style is gorgeous, and the characters are animated on twos, meaning that they have that very slight choppiness to them while the rest of the environment moves at normal speed. Like you're looking at a storybook or flicking through an old photo album. To call it a vibe would be a really lazy way of me underselling what Mixtape captures. So I think what I really need to do is explain why a game about teenagers in suburban 80s America connects with me, a millennial Brit born in 1994. And that's because while the aesthetic is American, it is skating, it is punk, I don't think you have to be part of any of that to really understand the heart of Mixtape. That's just the wrapper. It's about three best friends, Stacey, Slater and Cass, having their final day together before the end of college, and they all go their separate ways. So in that sense, it is just a coming of age story, and a really good one. And if you want to look at it through the lens of intersectionality, you can do. Will Zoomers connect with this? I don't know. If you're not white, will you connect with this? I don't know. Because Mixtape is white, suburban and middle class in its presentation, it might put some off. But as I say, other than being white myself, I've got really no similarities to any of the characters here, and this time period was just before my time, as was all the music. I'm not exactly an 80s or 90s music lover, but what I can connect with is the pressure and the stress and the angst that comes in the later teenage years, and maybe more importantly, how important and formative all those memories and experiences become, and you only realise that once it's over. And this is core to Stacey's character, who you play for most of the game, who has curated a perfect mixtape for the final day with her and her friends. A song for each and every final moment and experience together. It's really, really similar to Superbad, which I view as pretty timeless. There's a bit more of a focus on reminiscing and nostalgia here, but all in all it's a story of the wild shit you get up to with your friends when you're young, but then ultimately have to say goodbye, in one way or another. And obviously, there's loads of other very cool stylistic stuff going on here. It's got loads of references to 80s and 90s movies like Ferris Bueller and The Breakfast Club, but it's kept super interesting visually with a ton of variety in the cinematography throughout. These are all reasons that I think Mixtape is worth experiencing, even if on the surface you might not think it's for you. So what exactly is the gameplay of Mixtape? You're largely living out little vignettes from the gang's present and mostly the past. And just like how Stacey uses her mixtape to elevate the final moments with her friends, the game uses interactivity to elevate some of the memories and really accentuate what was being felt at the time. Like you might have seen the kissing tongue scene going around. Here, the interactive bit is a bit of freaky little tongue action to trigger a sense of disgust that a character is experiencing. That's what it's all about. And so using this as the main quote-unquote mechanic really worked for me. It's well executed, but you'll move through sequences like this pretty quickly. So its strength there is really in enhancing the narrative and its variety. Obviously not in like mechanical depth or puzzle solving or anything like that. You also spend a good chunk of the game walking around different rooms and interacting with objects, with stories and gameplay vignettes attached to them. And that probably would be boring if the script and the voice acting and the presentation wasn't so fucking good. It doesn't linger, it doesn't hang around, it doesn't waste your time. And I think really, Mixtape is a game that makes you reflect. It has the power to make you think about that time of your life when maybe you otherwise don't. I know I did. And having come away from Mixtape, there actually is very little bad I have to say about it. I guess my one objective complaint would be that there was a couple of times where the dialogue editing was a bit off. I only noticed it twice and I can't be sure it wasn't a hardware issue or whatever, but here's an example of what I mean.
Under this floor we will find not only a heinous stash, but an only slightly...
That was unedited, I didn't do anything to that, that's just how it was for me in the game. As I say, I can't be sure what the actual issue is here, but this is really minor and it happened like twice in the whole playthrough. The only other downside I can really think of is that I wanted more of it. You know, sometimes games leave you wanting more for better and sometimes for worse. With Mixtape, it's a bit of both. I really loved every second of it, and for that reason there are some moments when the brevity is working against it. It wants to be quick, it wants to take you from one moment to the next. The tagline for the game is the greatest hits, a mixtape of the best moments. But fuck man, I would not have minded spending another few hours with these characters. And don't get me wrong, by the end I was still really attached to them, so it's not like there wasn't enough meat on the bone for me to get invested. So overall, you know, it's a pretty minor complaint that's born out of love, really. So as far as a review goes, I feel like the most glowing praise I can give Mixtape is that I was smiling all the way through. I laughed, I was disgusted, I cried, and while I didn't exactly see myself as Stacey Rockford, I did feel all the trappings of teenage angst here, to feel like the whole world is at your fingertips but also so far away, and what it means to leave all that behind. It had me reflecting on the final moments of my friendships with friends before they moved to university and I moved to university, and how things were never really the same after that. Mixtape being able to elicit those bittersweet and melancholy feelings, I think that's quite magical. And so in terms of scoring, I think that's a game and an experience worthy of somewhere around a 9. I can't tell you if you'll enjoy Mixtape as much as I did, but if you've been as lucky as I've been to grow up with amazing people, then I think you will. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much. Can I ask you to consider liking and subscribing? Thanks. So we're now at that part of the video where I want to do a bit of an analysis and a bit of an interpretation of what Mixtape is about and how it all works. For me, anyway. And yes, that does mean a light bit of psychoanalysis on Stacey. It also means that there are spoilers here, no way around it. I'm going to be talking about key moments for Stacey's character, and I'm going to be talking about and showing the ending of the game. So if you haven't played Mixtape and you've watched this far, you must be somewhat interested in it. Just go play it and then come back afterwards. I'll still be here. It's also worth me saying that with Mixtape, it's a pretty straight shooting game. There aren't really that many layers of interpretation to this. But how and why it works or doesn't work for different people is where I think will be the most interesting dialogue. So let's get into it. In my view, there are 4 major moments in Mixtape's story that make the whole thing sing. One at the beginning of the game, outlining what a music supervisor is, which is what Stacey wants to be, and then 3 key character moments from Stacey. So let's start at the beginning and remind ourselves what the hell a music supervisor is.
This is the domain of the music supervisor. It's their job to curate a soundtrack that frames and elevates the narrative, whether it's a film, a play, or a television program. Stacey Rockford has wanted to be a music supervisor since 8th grade. I'm told her mixtapes are spectacular, though I've never heard one myself.
It's their job to create a soundtrack that frames and elevates the narrative. While this is obviously central to Stacey's character and her motivations for moving away, it's also a neat little parallel with how the game leverages being a game. The memories and the events that you experience and re-experience as Stacey and the gang are often emphasized and exaggerated. In one scene you're flying, in another you're blowing stuff up by flipping them off, but for 2, it's totally entangled with Stacey's character. And this is seen when we get to her first key moment.
Most of the time, if I don't have music on, I get the panic.
What's the panic?
Like, time feels like it's drifting by. I feel like I'm wasting something.
So you try and block it out?
It's not like that. Sometimes I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be feeling. Some days I feel nothing at all. But you pick the right song, it holds you in the moment, gives it meaning. Because the music's going somewhere, and you're going with it.
So we come to understand that Stacey really uses music to try and give these moments meaning. And when these moments don't have meaning, she feels like she's wasting it. She's wasting her time as a teenager. And in a bit of a subversion, I suppose, it's not like she's using the music to block that feeling out. She's desperate for it to all mean something, for it to have been enough. Like squeezing a slippery piece of soap that she just can't get hold of. And so when I've got my therapist hat on, we know why she's listening to music all the time, but is it helpful? Are there any consequences? Is it possible that by being so concerned with the moment and making it count, she's less present and continues to feel like she's wasting time? So in the short run, yeah, maybe music does help her feel more in the moment, but in the long run, it's reinforcing her fear that she's wasting time. That's ignoring the fact that she seems so obsessed with curating the perfect playlist that this obviously has implications for where she spends her time. Now, I don't want to get too into the weeds with trying to formulate Stacey's brain, because Mixtape is about the normal teenage experience. And of course, the canon description of Stacey's skills are actually that they're really good. The game and different characters tell us multiple times that she's actually really good at curating a mixtape. So this is obviously a strength to her in some regards, but it raises a bit of a chicken and egg question that we just don't have the answer to. The game tells us she's wanted to be a music supervisor since the 8th grade, but was Stacey always this fixated on getting the perfect mixtape, and did she have a natural talent for it? And therefore this was just her unique way of trying to elevate her teenage experience before it all ended? Or by consistently using music to elevate different moments of her life because of the panic, did she just get really good at it? And really, we all develop our own ways of coping with the complex feelings of being a teenager. This is just Stacey's manifestation of that. And in the next key scene, we really see how Stacey's perspective on things is different to Cass's and Slater's perspective.
Most of the time, I'm wondering if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? To have the optimal teenage experience.
The teenage experience is unobtainable.
Yeah, it's like Bodacious Cretaceous. I remember the dinosaurs were so huge and alive. But coming back, they suck both ends.
They do suck both ends.
Difference is, being young, you never get to go back. No one remembers the suck.
Maybe. I guess Air Supply didn't write songs for everyone, but their greatest hits is kind of wall to wall.
It's like we're writing the albums. The greatest hits comes later, after it's all over.
Exactly.
In contrast to how Stacey feels, Cass and Slater both view the optimal teenage experience as unobtainable. Their perspective is that they can't really optimize their youth because they don't really know what's going to be important. And I'll also add that this whole shot is them walking towards the sunset, a common cinematic trope for a happy ending, while the inevitable comet comes down to blow them all up. I don't think that needs any explaining. And I think that one of the central themes of the game is really touched on by Slater's line, "It's like we're writing the albums. The greatest hits comes later, when it's all over." And we can talk about nostalgia and memories and all that, but if we want to be more specific, we're talking about the reminiscence bump, which in short is the tendency for adults to better remember things that happened in their adolescence or early adulthood. So I mean, yeah, it is true that we're more likely to remember stuff from when we were younger, with more vividness and with more detailed recollection. That's pretty well established in the research at this point. So knowing this, we can understand why Stacey wants all of these moments to be so powerful and so meaningful. The big stuff is gonna be remembered, whether she wants to or not. What's more questionable is her desire to make every moment feel perfect and more meaningful by constantly wearing her headphones, as if the time with her friends isn't already enough. So again, we ask, is this behaviour helping that feeling? Or is it perpetuating it, or even maybe making it worse? And if it is helping the feeling, why does she still do it? Why hasn't the feeling just resolved? This all leads us nicely into our final key scene. Man, even watching it in post, I still find that a really powerful scene. So, obviously, one of the cool parts about this is that the game literally asks us to let go. And if you're anything like me, you held those triggers or those buttons down for quite a long time. hoping that something else would happen, which speaks to the feeling of not wanting to let go. So it is a bit of a side note, but I do feel like this is the one true time that Mixtape actually taps into the medium of video games. Everything else is kind of complementary, but this is a feeling that couldn't have been achieved with a film. The rest of it probably could, even if the main moments were accentuated by some really fun and great audio-visual design in the experience. But the game asking us to not let go and then let go in both the physical and metaphorical sense, that's really clever and it's really powerful. It is to me, anyway. But what does this final shot tell us about Stacey? Not only that she does let go, but as she turns away, she goes to put on her headphones, hesitates, doesn't put them on, smiles, and walks out of frame. This moment, or perhaps the whole day, meant so much to her. She didn't feel the need to frame and elevate it like a music supervisor would. It was meaningful enough. And in some ways, I think that really validates all of the formulating we did around Stacey's thoughts and behaviours earlier. By finally letting go, she was able to see that she didn't need to use the music all the time to frame and elevate the narrative. And how all that pans out for her remains a question mark. Does she remain incredibly enthusiastic about music, but doesn't rely on it to make her feel better? Or for different reasons does she slip back into that same pattern? So on a bit of an unrelated note, I do think that actually sets us up really nicely for a sequel or a Mixtape Volume 2. In terms of Stacey's narrative anyway. I'm not sure if you can capture all the same feelings in the same way by following Stacey trying to find this person and become a music supervisor. So that really brings us towards the end of the video. However, I'm conscious that over my time of playing Mixtape and making this video, the community sentiment has got a little polarizing, shall we say? And my read on that is that it's because Mixtape doesn't have much mechanical depth to it. It plays itself, it's like a movie, etc, etc. And you know, really, games like this have been around for a long time, but it gets to the heart of what the medium is all about. Are video games about having a challenge? Are they about rules? Are they about failing and succeeding? If for you, the answer is yes, then I would not be surprised to hear that Mixtape isn't for you. But we don't need to view the medium in such black and white terms. One of the best things about games is that they're an interactive medium. It is arguably the most flexible medium of them all. All it really requires is an input device to make something happen on an output visual device, usually accompanied by audio. That's it. And if you let your imagination run wild for a moment, I'm sure you could really think of some crazy creative things that could happen in that space. And within that, does simply having more buttons to press or more challenge or more rules make a game better? Because by saying that that isn't a real game, all we're really doing is gatekeeping. Think about all the developments in the artistry of cinema, moving from black and white to colour, jump cuts, linear storytelling versus non-linear storytelling, handheld camera work, graphic violence, anti-heroes and morally ambiguous protagonists, multiple perspectives or unreliable narrators, explicit sexuality, and breaking the fourth wall. These are a myriad of examples of things that were controversial when they were first introduced. And by trapping films in those conventions, by trapping them in that box, it stops the medium growing. It shrinks it. Now, I'm not positioning Mixtape as some innovative piece of art. It's really just my perspective on things. And if you really love video games as an entertainment form, I'd encourage you to think, would you stop a family member or a friend from playing this? Someone who doesn't really play games but likes the look of Mixtape? This could be their window in. Or even to think about what you'd say to someone who criticised games that were too mechanically dense. You know, if they said MMOs and MOBAs aren't real video games, there's like having a second job. That's not a game, that's not enjoyable, that's not a real game. What would you say to them? So anyway, I better wrap this up because I could keep waffling about this for a long time. But clearly, these types of games aren't for everyone, and that's absolutely okay. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, please consider liking the video, and let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.